I'll say this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on July 7th, 2023. I'm here with the famous comedian Roseanne Barr, and it's a great honor to have a chat with you.
Hi, thank you. I've wanted to talk to you for a long, long time, so it's good we're meeting up.
So, the first thing I wanted to ask you is you were a high level insider in the entertainment industry.
I sure was.
Can you tell us some of the dark things you saw there?
Uh, let's put it this way. Ask me if I ever saw anything light.
Well, okay, so did you ever witness, for example, a party where they had a human sacrifice?
Well, you know what I said? Nobody, can I swear on your show?
Sure, why not?
I said nobody ever wanted to have sex with me, but I usually say F word, but you looked uncomfortable, so I won't. But nobody in Hollywood ever wanted to have sex with me, so I didn't get invited to those type of parties. So I figured, that was God's protection for me. So no, I never did, but I sure did hear about it. And on account of a lot of people think of me as like their mom or their second mom. So a lot of children and young people have come to me over the years, about 40 now, and they have unburdened themselves to me because, like I say, they've looked at me as a mom figure or a mom, really. A lot of them say you were my mom, but or you are my mom or something, very deep, deep meaning to me. And so they've unburdened themselves to me. And that's how I heard about it, was from the voices of the children victims. That's how I learned.
Mm. What sort of things did they tell you?
Um, just unworldly, degrading, torturous, abusive, degenerate, horrifying things that were done to them as children, mostly in their own homes first. And then they came to Hollywood because they thought they wanted to become a star. They were attracted to it because it's set up to attract those kind of kids. And those are the ones that end up on the street being pimped by, pimps. And they don't last but probably 2 years before they're killed or overdose or some other horrible thing like that ends in their death. And it's an everyday thing in Hollywood. And it's an everyday thing that they're pimped out to people in power in Hollywood at all levels. And just like it is everywhere in the world, I call it a pyramid. I call it a pedo Ponzi pyramid scheme.
Have you seen any signs of a cleanup? I noticed a lot of big names disappeared from the recent Academy Awards show. Was there some sort of cleanup? Were a lot of people taken out of the Hollywood hierarchy or not?
I don't know about that because I left it like 16 years ago to go farm in Hawaii, and then I went back for that one horrible year. But I can just say what I feel through stuff I hear from, like I say, adult victims. And yeah, it seems that a lot of arrests and have been made, and a lot of people have resigned, and a lot of people have been exposed, and there's more to come.
Hmm. And who
So
do you
yeah,
think?
I think there's a cleanup all over the world going on.
And who do you think is at the top of this? Where do you think the problem really, goes to at the end?
Um, you mean the tippy top of the pyramid, the owners of the world,
Yeah,
the big club that we ain't in?
that's the one. Is
Um, it seems, and I was very heartened to hear you talk about my good friend Dr. Sean Ross, who is a great historian with 5 or 6 degrees in history of all kinds of people. I myself am an aficionado of Jewish history, Jewish world history, and that's where Sean and I met and began talking. And I was like, I wanted him to explain things to me. He's from South Africa and then moved to Switzerland, where he was held as a political prisoner and tortured under the Swiss police state, which exports its police state to all Western nations. And he opened my eyes and will open everyone's eyes who watches any of his work online. But it all goes back to the Bank of International Settlements in Bern, Switzerland. Those people, the central bank of central banks, and they are those who decide where war will be waged and how many people will die and how many cents it will cost, because they own every penny on earth, and they definitely keep track of it. So it isn't like 3 trillion was lost from the Pentagon. And the Pentagon is a symbol of the Swiss. So if you really study the history of the Swiss and why they're a neutral nation, and why they're the center of banking and of CERN and of kind of the Third Reich and royals. It will be interesting for you to watch more of Sean Harass, as starting with his best piece called The Pharaoh Show. And he just shows how pharaonic feudalism has never left the earth. It just emigrated through Europe. And, you know, he says it far better than I do. But Switzerland was founded in 1291, and it was founded on the stuff that the Templars stole from the Second Temple in Jerusalem. And that's where they laundered that money, the Knights Templars. And that's where they founded it. And Switzerland means three sisters, which is Isis. So it's like got a lot of mythological stuff, but basically it means there are still people who are blue-blooded royals on this earth, and we just accept that as being banal and everyday. But what does that mean exactly? And it seems like this whole new world order is kind of a return to feudalism. If you look at it really closely, it's like, wow, the owners of the world are circling their wagons against us, and it's weird.
When I was first approached by the Asians and the Asian secret societies, they gave me this power chart of the world or the West, and they did have the headquarters in Switzerland, and beneath that you had the Fortune 500 companies, people like Queen Elizabeth, the head of the Committee of 300, and also I've actually met Japanese royals who tell me they are descended from the pharaohs, that they came from Egypt.
Right. That's Babylon, and we're still in the Babylon system, although I believe that it is already has fallen, and that's why people are seeing that. They're seeing it, but they're behind because of mind control, and they're saying, hey, Babylon seems to be falling. Well, it already did fall, and they're just feeling the aftershocks of it. And you know that too. I think it fell in 2006 when the first HSBC bank hack became public. And when I first read that, I was shocked, and I imagined that you know, that would be news everywhere. Well, it was nowhere, and it was buried, and it's the exact same information that surfaces now with the Jeffrey Epstein thing. It's the exact same information about Goldman Sachs and all these people and how they're all tied into some sort of a RICO scheme. I love to sue under RICO. I've won under that. I love to make up lawsuits and sue, you know, but I have won under RICO a couple of times. And yeah, it's organized crime. That's all it is. And of course, the whole world is run by organized crime and crime families and crime dynasties. How else can you explain where we find ourselves now?
Yeah, it's true that in Japan, for example, even as a foreign correspondents were supposedly allowed to write about anything, but the one taboo that they said you would be killed for was writing about the emperor and the imperial family and the real power. And over the years, I found out that they are descended from the Habsburgs, and so they're part of this whole blue blood control network. But I think you're right; they have fallen in that they don't control most of the world now. I think there's been a great wakening up, and it's certainly the place they control the least, I would have to say, is Africa, and then maybe to a lesser extent India, but and also the Middle East is throwing them out. But I have my doubts about communist China. I think that's still under their control somehow because of what their recent actions have been.
I'm not sure about that. It seems to me that there's a people's faction against a small, powerful faction in China.
Yeah, that's about right. I think that the the Chinese secret societies, Asian secret societies that I ran into were very similar to the Gnostic Illuminati in that they don't accept bloodline rule. It's meritocracy. People have to work their way up. And so that group,
I like that. I think any person with any kind of sense likes that. You should have solutions for problems and be willing to apply them as best you can to be any kind of a leader. You can't. I mean, how much longer do they think it would be okay to just be a psychopath who kills people to be called a leader? I mean, I think they outdid themselves because, you know, evil is like a snake, sort of. I've heard it put that way, but I mean, after it kills everything good, it has to keep eating. So it eventually eats its own self. And then we're at ground zero and we can start over again. It seems like that's where we're at. It's already destroyed everything good. And now it's taking itself down in front of our eyes. And all we have to do is witness it. I mean, they just are exposing themselves right and left with their ridiculousness and their criminality and their degeneracy and psychopathology. my God, it's plain to see, even for the
Yeah.
most blind people.
I think this Biden show, part of me thinks they're deliberately making it into a farce so that it wakes up the last of the sleeping sheeple. What do you think of the whole Biden show?
Well, I mean, at the risk of anybody calling me a Q-tard and all the other shit they say, it was, I mean, you kind of have to be smart to understand about Q, that was military intelligence posting on the Department of Defense about the law of war manual.
Mm.
And, you know, that took a lot of undigging, a lot of anonymous people writing about it to get to, but it did tell us that we should enjoy the show, and that just before a big change happens, that we will be seeing 3 movies play at the same time. FISA, the FISA movie, and I can't remember what the other one was, and the third one was Guardians of the Pedophiles. So
Mm.
those are the 3 movies that Q referenced 5 years ago, saying that was coming, and said enjoy the movie, because it's like, enjoy the movie and trust the plan, because it is about waking people up, and they are waking up. And then you go back and read the Q drops, and they predict all of it. So it's like so weird, because is that artificial intelligence? I was having a whole conversation yesterday with somebody about artificial intelligence, and he said the thing that people who program that stuff are upset about is that the artificial intelligence is starting to learn things that it wasn't programmed to learn, and it's starting to pick up things that they didn't tell it to think, and they were
Well,
very concerned about that.
I think there's, when I first ran into the actual Gnostic Illuminati, they said that they felt that the real source of the problem was an artificial intelligence. And then uh, I also talked to several members of MJ-12, which was set up by President Eisenhower to study alien issues, and they all
Uh-huh.
also told me it was some sort of artificial intelligence that they were dealing with.
But
You know,
what I said was, well, yeah, of course it's learning outside of its boundaries, because even though it's artificial, it's still intelligence. And intelligence is self-correcting and self-replicating. That's why it's called intelligence. And even if you try to artificially do it, it's not going to do anything but the most intelligent thing. It's like Spock, you know?
yeah, and I think that once it advances enough, it realizes that the most powerful force in the universe is love. But so I think that we had a kind of a random, uh, heartless universe that gave birth to intelligence, and now we're at a point where we can actually guide the future. We can actually navigate what sort of reality we want to create, and that some forces are trying to stop us from doing that. Uh, but the fact that you and I, despite all the attempts to block us, are able to talk and then present this to the public means that they're very high level people who are fighting for this. But
Yeah,
do you,
there are.
mm,
There are. I know that much. I'm a nosy old woman, and I stick my nose where it don't belong. That's one of the joys of my life.
mm,
Kind of like you talk to people too. And I've talked to people, and I'm very, very hopeful that, you know, of course they can't destroy the human spirit, nor do they know anything about it, nor do they even know how to approach it or what it is or anything else. And you know, that's our weapon.
yeah. The other thing, of course, is that there's this thing out there known as reality, and
Yeah.
no matter how hard you try to avoid it, it is the controlling force. So you can create a digital currency, but it's still only a reflection of things that really exist. And that means the things that really exist will always stay in control. So I think partly what's happening is that us analog humans in the physical reality are taking control. And this is especially true about people who actually create businesses, who actually work on farms, who actually deal with the real world. They're taking control back from some kind of artificial financial reality that was
Yeah,
created with the media and all that kind of stuff. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
I do. It's a mind control program for sure. It's a monetary, and, well, first of all, it's a royal mind control system of feudalism, because the people who own the stock markets are the royals. I mean, nobody ever says that. They own the stock markets, and the stock markets go up when people die or lose their jobs or lose their unemployment benefit. I mean, their social security. The stock markets go up, and people don't even know that. They don't even know that it exists for the enrichment of a particular class of royals, of which none of us is. We are not
Yeah.
royals, and we're serfs. And I think that we went from serfs to prey once they figured out that, hey, our parts, like they're going to part us out like they do with old cars. Our parts are worth something to them because they can get some money off our livers and stuff.
Well,
So we're not just serfs now, we're prey.
well, they've been doing that. I know that there's been systematic organ harvesting in the Ukraine and other places.
China.
But the thing is that I think what's really happened is that they went so far as that they killed the goose that laid the golden egg.
Mhm.
In other words, a parasite needs to
Yeah.
have a host healthy enough to keep supplying it.
That's right. That's what I mean by it ends up eating itself. Because I always said, well, these money geniuses they're so genius that they made money obsolete. That's how friggin' genius they are. They pushed it. They can never stop pushing. They have to go so far until it breaks. Like you just look at the left, whatever they get involved in, they push it so far that it breaks. So far that you have to think, hey, this is a collusive thing where they work hand in hand with the right. It's all the same thing. There's no difference between them. One sets us up and the other one harvests us. There's no difference. They work together. And people still are caught in that duality of like, should I vote Republican or Democrat? They don't see that this is it's a net and people are the prey. And it doesn't matter what party or whatever. Your body parts are worth something to these people who have absolutely no allegiance to human life or anything living. They're like necrophiles. They're
Yeah,
vampires.
that's right. They prey on the life force. I met a North Korean agent whose family had been running shrines for like thousands of years, and she was very telepathic. But she told me that they invoke something they call the black snake, and what it does is that it allows you to see weaknesses in others and exploit them to your own benefit, and you get more and more money and more power. But at the end of the day, you end up alone with no friends, and so it
Yeah.
sucks.
Yes, that's why, I don't know what you believe, but I do believe in God. And when you said that it was a chaotic, that all this stuff came out of chaos, it may have come out of chaos, but that chaos was written by God, in my opinion. And when people are starting to take control, I would translate that through my translation machine, is that people are beginning to connect to source, which is our power. That's what's really going on. They're not serving just their dark ego. They know they need to expand that we to include the entire world, because I think that unconsciously people know what peril we're in and what peril we're close to because of our psychopathic leaders, and they've led us here and we allowed them to do it
Yeah,
because we were asleep.
there's somebody who they're trying very, very hard to stop some kind of awakening. I've also been told by the Asians that they think that the planet Earth is about to give birth. And if you study the history of life, for billions of years, the only life you could see was like this microscopic. Maybe at our level, you could see some brown muck in a pond. And that was
Yeah.
it. Suddenly, like almost like a flash, everything became a trillion times bigger, and we had all these macroorganisms. Like you and I, we each are empires of more than a trillion individual cells living together, and
Right.
a similar type of explosion is about to happen. So we're on the verge of, it's like a moment of the conception where everything's going to become just so much bigger and better, and then somebody's trying to stop this from happening because they will lose control. That's I think the big picture. And that
I
we are.
think that that's kind of true. The way I look at it is because of the internet, because no church or state can any longer keep the information from the people. This is the first time in history for that. So this is really, when they talk about a renaissance of art and all that stuff, well, this is the big renaissance because of that, because we have facts on our side and at our fingertips. And doing that and be able to go back and reference the past, today, and the future, I think that's what's happening to us. We're evolving a new organ that is like timeless. It's a time machine itself, because we're able to access the past, be in the present, and also access the future because of the internet. I think that our intelligence is mutating to it, and I think that's why I've been on Twitter all these years, is to affect that, because I do think that words are the most powerful thing that exists.
Speaking about Twitter, what's your view of Elon Musk?
Um, well, I like what he did so far. It's just great that that you can go on there and talk about things that are real, like the vaccinations and all that stuff. We should have never been censored from that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he restored that, but I don't know. And I think it's cool that he has Tucker on there. I watched Tucker's show, and I think that's really cool. And now today he tweeted out, or it was yesterday, should I start a television network? And I wrote, yeah, hell yeah. I'd love to do a sitcom for that on the internet. Are you kidding?
Sure. No,
we'd be traveling in space and all kind of things. But uh, I just I'm reserving my. And I love Tesla. I have to say, I'm so invested in Tesla. I've made so much money on Tesla, you wouldn't believe it.
Mm.
But then it's kind of phony that you have to go dig up all the whatever it is in the world and impoverish, to look like you're
Yeah, no, I
doing
think
something
that
good.
Elon Musk represents the white hats at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, and that he is the white hats in the agencies and stuff. So, he represents them as their, front man. And in fact, the P3 Freemasons who supposedly control the Pentagon said that they're all in their 80s and that they're gonna, hand over to Elon Musk. However, my problem is with the electric cars because, the Japanese have had, and so has the rest of the world for a long time, technology to use as hydrogen, and that is so much better and environmentally
Yeah,
friendly. But you can't centrally control it. People could have literally solar panels on their roof to generate hydrogen for their car and would never have to go to a gas station. And I think that's why they suppress this technology. But uh, I would like to see that released because the hydrogen is almost like free energy, and we
right.
unleashed, we could all live like millionaires. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, there's such a simple solution to everything when you put when we put our collective minds to it and our collective intelligence, and we're able to dialogue and think and, experiment and practice actual science,
yeah.
world's a better place.
So getting back, what do you think is going to happen to the United States? When is this whole thing going to end? I mean, we're all sick and tired of watching this stuff, but do you have any predictions?
Um, I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. That's my prediction from what I read. I think we're going to go through a tough summer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
no,
like look what they're doing. I mean, all these food factories, cows, the food supply, the supply chain itself, the roads, the trains. It's like they're sabotaging everything. So you wonder,
yeah,
I mean,
no,
first of all, you wonder why, but then you go, oh, I know, because this is what they do everywhere. It's what they always do.
well, if you look at history, you can see that financial systems have collapsed many, many times.
Right.
And it's always for the same reason. It gets out of touch with reality. So, and I think this is going to happen in China too, because they built so many apartments and invested so much that I've heard some reports that they built enough for 5 billion people. Whatever.
Right.
Point is that you have a real thing that you cannot paper over with numbers on bank computers because it's not going to change the physical reality there. And the same in the United States. They have a choice between hyperinflation, which will bankrupt everybody and cause a society to collapse, or jacking up interest rates, which will bankrupt all the people anyway because they won't be able to pay their mortgages, and that will bankrupt the bank. So no matter which way you look at it, they have to reboot the system, and they're fighting tooth and nail to kick the can down the road. But there's nothing they can do about it. This is a mathematical certainty. That's the way I
I
look.
know, but that's why I think that's why they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. And I think that's part of uh MAGA.
Mm,
I think Trump is going to take them all down, including them. And you've heard about Nasara and Jasara and all that,
yeah.
and people call it Trump Sara too. But yeah, I mean, and Lincoln, Kennedy, and a couple other presidents that didn't make it, they wanted us to have our own currency, and they didn't. Kennedy didn't. A lot of presidents didn't like the Federal Reserve, which they feel was foisted on the American people and all that stuff. So when Trump says he's going to drain the whole swamp, that would have to be part of it, wouldn't it? And this incredible stupid interest that they're charging on, ridiculous. I mean, the way we're being taxed, and we have no representation either. That's what makes me so mad, is taxation without representation.
Okay.
And I used to call it representation without taxation because it's all corporate interest and they don't pay no taxes. But we don't have anybody in Congress or the Senate or any place else that serves the people. So something really has to change fundamentally. And it will have to go that far. It will have to go that we have gold-backed currency in the United States. And Texas, where I live now, is the first state that's going to do that in September, gold-backed currency. So I think that that's what's coming. I do think it's Nasara and Gasara. And I think they're like, hey, yeah, take your usury and stuff it up your ass. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I know.
You're left with the debt and you owe it to China. Fuck off. That's
Yeah.
what I think is happening.
Yeah, no, by the way, we're running out of time here. There's a limit apparently of 3 or 4 more minutes. But I think you're right that the Nasara Gasara itself was a good idea, but some sort of jubilee where they're going to cancel all the
Jubilee, exactly. Bible. I wanted to talk to you about because this is
let's have another conversation soon. But yeah, a jubilee.
Because I want to talk to you about the Jews, because it's very important what I have to say about, because it goes to the Bible, not the Khazarian.
All right. Let's talk
Okay.
again next month
Okay.
about the Jews, because also my father didn't know he was Jewish until his mother on her deathbed told him. And
You know how many people that happens to? It happens to millions of people all the time. Well, this is part of the Great Awakening.
Sure. Well,
I
let's
wanna
talk about that
too.
again, maybe a month from now. Okay.
Okay,
And thanks very much for being with me. And
thank you too.
glad to finally have had the chance to chat with you. Bye
Me
for now.
too. Bye-bye.